Hello students, in the last class we had studied about text input controls. So which all elements will help us to enter text and different forms of elements. Now we'll see about the elements which will help us to create choices. Okay, so where we can choose a particular option, which all elements will help us to create that. So out of that, the first one is the select list. Choose an option or any option. As we had seen in our previous example, select element will help us to create a list of multiple options. So the user will get to choose among those options. So select element is used to create a multi-line box for selecting one or more items. So it will create a list of items and you have to choose among those items. So the options are defined using the option element and can be hidden in a drop down, or multiple rows of the list can be visible. Option elements can be grouped together via the opt group element. Okay, so select element will help us to create multiple item list, and the options have to be created using the option element. So you'll get a drop down of list of all the options, and if some of the options are related together, you can group those options by using the opt group element. Okay, so here we have some example. Select list. Here we have the select element, name is equals to choices. Okay, so using these name, the option which you have selected, that will be stored in the name choices, and then it will go to the server. Okay, so here we have option first. Okay, second you have your option selected. That means if you are using here selected, only that part will be by default shown in that particular tab. That means the second option which is there, by default it will be shown in the tab. If you write it option selected first, that means if you write for the first line, then first will be seen as the default option in that tab. Okay, then you have here option third. Three options are there: first, second and third, and the second one is the default option which will be shown there in the tab. Okay, so whichever option you choose, for example if I choose second, okay, so to the server it will go as choices is equals to second. Okay, so we know that these names are the names through which our form data goes from the client to the server, or from the browser to the server. Okay, and what is the selected used for? Along with the option element, selected is the one which by default will be shown in that particular tab. Okay, so along with the select element you can also use the size is equals to 3. Okay, so you can have here size here. Okay, then next you have here select opt group label. Okay, opt group label is equals to what here? North America. Okay, so you are grouping here elements, you are grouping the options here, and the label you have given here North America. Under North America you have two options related to it, that is Calgary and Los Angeles. So these two cities belong to North America, and next there is one more opt group label Europe. Okay, so under Europe which all is there? London, Paris and Prague. So opt group is used for grouping of options which belongs to a particular category. So you can make groups of options. So we have two groups here, North America and Europe. Under North America you have two options, Calgary and Los Angeles, and under Europe you have three options, London, Paris and Prague. If you do not want to group, then you'll have to just remove off opt group. Okay, if to just remove opt group, then all of them will be seen under one category. Okay, so next is which value to send. We'll be making use of the value attribute. The value attribute of the option element is used to specify what value will be sent back to the server. Okay, so they are saying along with this option element you can use one attribute. Which attribute is that? The value attribute. The value attribute is optional. If it is not specified, then the text within the container is sent instead. For example, select name is equals to choices, which are the options first, second and third. Okay, then you close the select element and you have chosen here which option? Second option. Okay, so the second value which is there, the name which is there, it will go through which name? Choices. So choices is equals to second. Okay, so in this way the form data will go from the browser to the server. Okay, if you are not using value, if you're just using the options. Now, instead of using option, again with that, if you are using an attribute, which attribute is here? Value. That means for those option, if you give some values, instead of those option names, the values will be sent to the server. So here for first, what is the value here? 1. For second, the value is 2. For third, the value is 3. So instead of, you have selected here second, so instead of second, the value 2 will be sent. Here you can see below, choices is equals to 2 will be sent to the server. Here choices is equals to second will be sent to the server if you are not using the value attribute. If you are using the value attribute, the value associated with that option will be sent to the server. Okay, so the value attribute to be used with the option is optional. Okay, so they have said here the value attribute is optional, you need not use them. Okay, if you are using them, the value will be sent. If you're not using them, the specified text only will be sent to the server. So this is about the value attribute which can be used with the option element, and the option element is used with which element here? Select element. Okay, so it was about the select element which we studied here. So select list, the select element is used for choice controls. It is used for choice input controls. And the second under the choice input controls or the choice controls is radio buttons. So radio buttons also will be helping us to choose among the options. Okay, so choosing among the many options, second part is radio buttons, and the choice control, the first option is select list. Okay, let us see about radio buttons. Radio buttons are useful when you want the user to select a single item from a small list of choices. Okay, and you want all the choices to be visible. Radio buttons, there also list will be there, small list will be there, and you can choose among those small list and all the choices should be visible. Okay, so which element or which text will help us to create radio buttons? Radio buttons are added via the input type is equals to radio element. Input type is equals to radio element will help us to create radio buttons. The radio buttons are mutually exclusive. That is, only one can be chosen by sharing the same name attribute. Okay, so in the choices of those radio buttons, you can choose only one option. Okay, you cannot choose all of them, you can choose only one option among them. The checked attribute is used to indicate the default choice. Okay, so out of those, if there are 3 radio buttons, one button will be checked. That means one button will be clicked as the default choice. Okay, the value attribute works in the same manner as with the option element. So here also with radio buttons we'll be using the option element, and along with the option element we can also use the value attribute, the same which we had used previously while studying the select element. Okay, so let us see an example of radio buttons. Radio button, the label is continent. You have 3 options. Which are those 3 options? North America, South America and Asia. So input type is equals to what? Radio. Name is equals to where. Value is equals to 1. And the label here is, text here is North America. Okay, so the input type is what here? Radio. And this name where is what? If you are choosing North America, then the value which will go to the server is where is equals to North America. Okay, and here input type, second line, input type is equals to radio, name is equals to where, value is equals to checked. That means it is already clicked by default, South America. Okay, so what value will go if you choose South America? Where is equals to South America will go to the server. The second option is input type is equals to radio, name is equals to where, value is equals to 3, which is the third one, Asia. Okay, so by default which one is chosen? South America is chosen, and you can check only one option out of this 3. So instead of South America you can click on North America or you can click Asia. Okay, so this is about radio buttons. Radio buttons will help us to choose among a small list of options. Small list of options. So as they have given here value, as they have given here values here, so instead of North America, which value will go here? 1. Instead of South America, the value which will go to the server is 2. And instead of Asia, the value that will go is 3. If you all are not using this value attribute, the text itself will go to the server. That is, if you choose North America, North America will go to the server, otherwise Asia will go to the server. If you are not using this, if you are using this value attribute, then 1 or 3 or 2 or all of them, not all of them, or one of the values will go to the server. Okay. Next in the choice control is checkboxes. Okay, checkboxes are the one which will help us to tick at that particular slot. Okay, so checkboxes are used for getting yes, no, or on off responses from the user. Checkboxes are added via the input type is equals to checkbox element. So checkboxes are used for yes, no, on, off, and all such types from the user. And how to create it? Input type is equals to checkbox. You can also group checkboxes together by having them share the same name attribute. So you can have multiple ticks here. Okay, you can have more number of options, where in radio buttons you can check on only one option. Here in checkboxes you can check on two or more options, one or more options. Each checked checkbox will have its value sent to the server. That means if you are clicking on one option, one value will go. If you are clicking on two options, two values also will go to the server. Like with radio buttons, the check attribute can be used to set the default value of a checkbox. Okay, so here also we can have a checked attribute that can be used to set a default value of a checkbox. That means default one will be clicked. Okay, so we'll see an example. I accept the software license, tick, it is already clicked. So label what it is, I accept the software license. Okay, input type is what? Checkbox, name is equals to accept. Okay, if you are clicking, if you have checked on it, it is on. If you have not checked on it, it will be off. Okay, so what value will be sent to the server is, as it is clicked now, it will be accept is equals to on. If you unclick it, then what value will go to the server is accept is equals to off. Okay, so these are the names through which our values, form data values, are going to the server. So accept is equals to on if it is clicked, accept is equals to off it is unclicked. Okay, so next example what we have here, where would you like to visit? Canada, France, Germany. Okay, so here which two options are being clicked? Canada as well as Germany, both are clicked. Okay, in a checkbox you can have more than one option. So what is the label here? Where would you like to visit? Label, input type is equals to checkbox, name is equals to visit, value is equals to Canada, Canada. Okay, here what they have done is they have given the text also Canada, France, Germany, as well as they have given the values also Canada, France, Germany. Okay, so as you have clicked on both of them, so what value will go is visit is equals to Canada and visit is equals to Germany. Both values will go to the server. So you have three things here which will go to the server. And which are those three things? One, first value will be accept is equals to on. Second is visit is equals to Canada. Third is visit is equals to Germany. Okay, so you, as you have many options here, they have to be separated by ampersand. Okay, as you can see here, accept is equals to on, ampersand, visit is equals to Canada, ampersand, visit is equals to Germany. So these three are the form data that was entered by the user. So using this particular values, they will go from the browser to the server. Okay, in a particular form you have all these options. What is that? Accept is equals to on, visit is equals to Canada, visit is equals to Germany. I have told you all previously, using these names, which are the names here, name is equals to accept, name is equals to visit. Using these names or using this particular value of the attribute name, we have to go from the server, from the browser to the server. So what will be the first one? Accept is equals to on, visit is equals to Canada, visit is equals to Germany. And as they are three values, they have to be enclosed, separated by what here? Ampersand symbol and symbol, ampersand symbol. So this particular string which goes from the browser to the server is known as a query string. It is known as what? Query string. Query string consists of the values or the form data which is being entered from the browser to the server. Okay, so this is about query string. Query string will be studying it later. Okay, more detail will be studying it later. Now these were topics which we studied. They were all choice controls. Okay, they were all choice controls. Under choice controls, the first one is the select list. Okay, so we saw about select list. The second is radio buttons, and the third one is check boxes. Okay, so under choice controls we have three types. The next topic we have here is the button controls. We'll see which are the different type of button controls supported by HTML. Input type is equals to submit. Okay, so this type of input creates a button that submits the form data to the server. Okay, it creates a button that submits the form data to the server. So whatever form data you will be have entered in the form, that once you press the submit button, it will go from the form to the server. Input type is equals to reset, creates a button that clears any of the users already entered form data. So reset is used for clearing of any of the data that has already been entered and you want to enter a new set of data into the form. Next is input type is equals to button. It creates a custom button. This button may require JavaScript for it actually performing an action. Okay, so it does not only sends the data to the server, it also may require JavaScript for it to actually perform any action. The next we have here is input type is equals to image. It creates a custom submit button that uses an image for its display. Okay, so the button will be using an image, so that image will work as a submit button. Next type of button control is the button element itself. Okay, so creates a custom button. So how is this button element different from this input type of button? Okay, so the button element differs from input type is equals to button. Okay, and how does it differs? In that you can completely customize what appears in the button. Using it, you can, for instance, include both images and text, or skip server side processing entirely by using hyperlinks. Okay, so here in this button, this custom button, you can use images and text. Okay, and you can also skip the server side processing by using hyperlink. Okay, you can turn the button into a submit button by using the type submit attribute. Okay, so if you want to turn this button element into a submit button, then that time you have to use which attribute? Submit attribute. Okay, so these are the button controls. Let us see in terms of graphical representation. Button controls, input type is equals to submit, so it will create a normal submit button here which will send the form data to the server. Here second we have here input type is equals to reset. Input type is equals to reset, so this will clear the form data that was already entered by the user. Next one we have here is input type is equals to button and value is equals to click me. So click me will be here. Once you click on it, it will act as a button. Next is input type is equals to image. Okay, here you can see there is an image which will act like a button, and source is equals to appointment.png. So this is an image file. PNG file is an image file. So instead of a button, here image is acting like a button. Okay, next we have here edit, the first one which is there, edit. Button type is just submit. and there you have an image source is equals to images slash edit dot png, alt is just kept empty. Then you have written there edit, and this is button. This is a custom button. This is a custom button in which you have a text as well as an image. Here you have button ah referencing email.html. So it will be an email, it will be having an hyperlink. Okay, hyperlink. Image source is equals to images, so image file is being given, alternate is equals to space email slash a button. So these are the customized button element. So using this customized button element, you make use of text as well as images. Otherwise you can also skip the processing at the server end by directly putting the hyperlinks over there. So once you click on this particular button, it will go through an email. Okay, next we have is the specialized controls. Okay, so which are the specialized controls? Input type is equals to hidden. So if you use this input type is equals to hidden, so whatever input you will be entering in that particular tab will be hidden. Okay, you cannot, it is not visible there. If you write there input type is equals to hidden. Input type is equals to file. If you use input type is equals to file, which will help you to upload file, which will help you to upload file from your computer. Okay, and then that file will be sent to the server. For example, form method is equals to post label upload a travel photo. Okay, so you have here label upload a travel photo. Input type is equals to file, name is equals to photo. Okay, input type is equals to file. So what is here? Choose file is written and no file chosen. So once you choose a file, it will show that file here. Okay, it will show the file here beside once you upload. Okay, so input type is equals to file is one of the specialized controls which will help us to upload files from your computer. Input type is equals to hidden, so whatever input you are entering to the form will be hidden. Next we have is the number and range controls. Number and range controls. Typically input values need to be validated. Validated means whatever input is entered by the user has to be validated. That means it has to be checked whether it is correct or not. Although server side validation is required, optional client side pre-validation is a good practice. Usually the validation or the checking of the form data is done at the server side, not at the client side. But if you have an optional client side pre-validation, that is a very good practice. That means email has to be entered in this format only. Phone number should be ranging from this to this number. Okay, you can specify a range. That means minimum should be 0, maximum should be 5. If you specify such pre-validation formats prior itself, then the validation at the server side will be a bit reduced. The number and range controls are added in HTML5, provide a way to input numeric values that eliminates the need for JavaScript numeric validation. Okay, so if you have this particular name and range controls in your HTML, so the need for eliminating this eliminates the need for JavaScript numeric validation. So that validation or checking of the input need not be done at the server side. Okay, because here in the client side itself you are taking care by making use of which controls? Number and range controls. So let us see what this number and range control does. Rate this photo. Okay, you have to rate it, but you have to specify a particular range. Okay, rate this photo. Input type is equals to what here? Number. So we'll be specifying here number. Minimum is how much? 1. Maximum is 5. Okay, and name is equals to rate. So what a user can give is he can rate this photo only from 1 to 5, not below 1 or not more than 5. Okay, so whatever value you give here, that will sit in the name rate. So now the value chosen here is 2. So when going to the server side, it will be sent as rate is equals to 2. Okay, so the next type is we have here input type is equals to range, where you can range. For example, you have here in the diagram grumpy ecstatic. Okay, so you can move here, you can range here from low to high. So minimum is 0, maximum is 10, step 1. So step 1 by 1, so 1 2 3 like that. And name is equals to happiness. Okay, name is equals to happiness. Grumpy is very sad, ecstatic is too much happy. Okay, so you can have this to specify range, that is from 0 to 10. Okay, then next we have here is, if this is not supported, actually this range which is there, a range input type is supported by HTML5. If it is not supported by the other versions of HTML, then you can just enter the value. Rate this photo from grumpy to ecstatic. You can give the values from 1 to 10. Controls as they appear in browser that doesn't support these input types. If your HTML is not supporting this above format, then we'll have a normal format here, which where you have to give the values from 0 to 10. Okay, next we'll have here is the color format. Color format is here. So background color initially chosen is black. So background color input type is equals to color, name is equals to black. Okay, so if it is HTML file, you will get a format like this where you can choose among the colors. If it is not HTML file, then you have to specify the color which you want. Okay, so if it is supporting HTML file, you will have this interface. If it is not supporting HTML file, then you will have a normal input. Background color control as it appears in the browser that doesn't support this input type. So here you have to specify the color: red, green, blue, yellow, and so on. Okay, next we have is the date and time controls. Previously we had the number and range controls for validation. Now we have is the date and time controls for validation. Dates and times often need validation when gathering this information from a regular text input control. Okay, so date and times also need validation from a regular text input control. From a user's perspective, entering dates can be tricky as well. You probably have wondered at some point in time when entering a date into web form, what format to enter it. Okay, whether the day comes before the month or whether the month should be entered as an abbreviation or a number and so on. So whenever you are entering any date, so we'll be having a confusion whether the month should come first or whether the year should come first, or whether you have to specify the month in letters or whether you have to specify in terms of number. So those confusions will be there. So when such confusion is there, validation is very important for dates as well as times. Okay, so let us see HTML5 date and time controls. Here label is date, input type is equals to date. So you will get a particular calendar here where you can specify the day, which day it is, the month as well as the year. So what is chosen here is day chosen is 8, month chosen is March, and the year is 2013. Okay, so next here input type is goes to time. You can just specify the time here. Okay, and here input type is goes to date time, date and time, date as well as time, but here you have to mention the time zone. Okay, time zone is mentioned here, UTC. Input type is goes to date time local. Okay, if you specify type is goes to date time local, then it will not mention the time zone here. Okay, no need of mentioning the time zone. So let us see the next one. HTML5 date and time controls, input type is equals to month. So if you specify month, then it will take the input from the month wise. That is, here you can see March. This selection can be done using month. If you're using input type is equals to week, then you have to specify the term in terms of input in terms of week. Okay, that is 2013 week 10, like that. 2020 week 5. So it will help you to choose a particular week. Then next we have what all controls we saw above, those all are listed here in this table. HTML controls, date, this creates a general date input control. Okay, this if you're using the input type date, creates a general date input control. The format for date is year, month and day. Okay, year, month and day. Time creates a time input control. The format for the time is hour, minutes and seconds. Okay, next input type date time creates a control in which the user can enter a date as well as time. Date time local, okay, date time local creates a control in which the user can enter a date and time without specifying a time zone. If you're using this particular input date time, that means this one if you're using, then you have to specify the time zone. If you're using date time local, then no need of specifying the time zone. The next input is month, creates a control in which the user can enter a month in a year. So here we have to specify only the month and the year. If you're specifying week, then creates a control in which the user can specify a week in a year. That means for a particular year, you have to mention which week. Okay, week 5, week 10, week 6, like that. Okay, so these are all the HTML controls. Okay, next we have the other controls. The other controls also are available. Okay, which are the progress and the meter elements can be used to provide feedback to users. Okay, so this program and progress and meter elements can be used to provide what feedback to users, but it requires what, it requires JavaScript to function dynamically. If you are making use of these elements, it requires JavaScript to function dynamically. So this is to provide feedback to users. Next is the output element. The output element can be used to hold the output from a calculation. So if you're calculating something, that calculations output which will be there can be held by the output element. Then the next element, special element which we have here is the keygen element. Okay, the keygen element can be used to hold a private key for public key encryption. Okay, the keygen element can be used to hold a private key for keygen encryption. Okay, so these were all the other controls.